everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. Plus, let me tell you, I'm excited. Still jet lagged, still sleepy, slept like garbage last night, whatever. Life goes on. DZ40 GQHG. You think Grandpa complained about not getting a bunch of sleep? Was a Spitfire over occupied Europe? Doubt it. I mean, I'm not really doing something with the same level of import, but simultaneously, I'm just saying, yeah, basically, I'm excited because in my jet lag addled state, some video games are real hard. They're hard games. Gungeon's hard. Spire, a lot of mental arithmetic involved in that son of a gun. And that's not to say that it's impossible to play them well while you're a little bit, you know, cognitively impaired, but simultaneously, Isaac is like going to the fridge, pulling out some deli meat and making a sandwich. It's second nature. It's muscle memory. I could do it with my eyes closed, as mentioned, and I'm happy to have a game like that in the repertoire right now. Get out of here, you freaking Varus. Okay. Yeah, of course we'll pop it down here. Really good location to pop that down. Not dangerous and easy to hit. So this run, how we looking so far? Well, we got a above average damage, great HP. Speed's a little low, and rate of fire is not low, but you would like it to be higher. There's a slight difference, you know? If you're a professional basketball player, even if you're a bench player, you're not impoverished, obviously. You're very wealthy. But there might be people on your team making a little bit more money than you. That's pretty much where we're at right here. DPS, or the rate of fire specifically, it's not that it's bad, objectively. It's just that we've had better, and as a result, we would like to, if possible, get that stat, obviously, as high as possible. That way, maybe speed is more important, because I'll take the L on that one, but it is simultaneously kind of like a speed-related issue that got us there. Tell you, that's not going to be the secret room, because there was a spider on the wall. Never mind. Actually, the secret room could have been on the other side of that room. Either way, that's okay. Okay, it was weird. Today, there was an update to Isaac. I have no idea. Range and luck or HP? Let's take range and luck. Mostly for the luck stat. I don't know, you know, you're always patching games, quality of life, you know. I don't assume that there's been new content added, but, you know, Isaac doesn't get updated that often, so. And that's not really like a condemnation. It's really, we live in like a strange, alright, hold on. I don't want to kill you yet because I want to make sure we get 2 charges here. That's not a condemnation. We live in... Oh, that's real bad. We live in a bit of a weird era for video game updates, and you won't recognize it in all likelihood. Obviously, grab this first. But we live in a very pro-consumer era for video games. And I know that you wouldn't believe it because the angry men on YouTube are always like, this is an outrage. But in terms of, like, dev output, we're kind of living in like golden times, to the extent that I worry about the developers themselves, you know? Games are updating on a staggering pace constantly. Even, you know, it used to be 1998, and then part of this is because, you know, the internet existed but wasn't really like viable as a means for distributing patches and stuff like that. But you know, your game would come out on CD-ROM, that's it. There's bugs, they're there forever. Maybe you patch it manually if it's truly catastrophically bugged, but it's up to the end user, you know? It's not like you're gonna ship new copies to GameStop in most situations. Now, and it's not just bugs, but now, you know, your game comes out, it's in early access, maybe for like a year, 2 years, etc., etc. After it leaves early access, where it probably got updates at least once a month, major content updates in many circumstances. It still gets updates like once a week because you have to constantly be updating your game. It's like the people, I don't always love games as a service, don't get me wrong. But I think that blank as a service, it gets a deserved bad rap, and it also gets an undeserved bad rap, in my opinion. Hold on, this is an important moment here. We definitely want the rate of fire increase, but what else you got for me? With this much HP, we would be foolish, I think, to not take something. And I think we'll take both, but it's not a 10 out of 10. Where was I going with this? Yeah, people are like, you know, games as a service, it means that, you know, basically you're expected to kind of like, I'm expected is not the right word, but, you know, the game comes out, but then it's also monetized in the future via seasons passes and something like that, DLC, etc., frequent updates. But then in exchange for that, you get a game that is maintained for substantially longer than games used to be maintained for. You know, Rainbow Six Siege is a good example. You know, came out in 2015, I think. 4 years on almost. Still going strong. Stronger than ever? I don't know about that. I think it maybe, my perception is that it kind of hit like a high a year or two ago. And then, I'm not saying it's regressed, but maybe like excitement's a little lower now. It's just a natural sort of progression of things. But yeah, I mean, and I dig that, to be honest. Software as a service always gets a bad rap because of companies like Adobe that were like, okay, Photoshop is $700. People were like, whoa, dude, that's pretty pricey. And then they're like, okay, it's not $700 any longer. It's $15 a month until you die. And you're like, okay, well, could I just pay the $700? No, we got rid of that option. You can't do that anymore. I guess I'll take How to Jump. But games as a service, I'm for. The downside, I read an article about this. It was like with interviews from developers. The downside is that, of course, you know, developers are working their butts off, constantly making sure their games are updated. And updating your game is good, but at some point, you know, you probably want to just say like, I'm done. Wash your hands of it. Apparently, like, there's something to do with discoverability on Steam as well. Like, the more you update your game, the more you're pushed to the Steam front page. Hey, you might be saying, NL, you're talking out of your butt, but you're talking to the guy whose entire, like, content existence strategy on YouTube basically boils down to, you know, publish a lot of content absolutely every single day. So, trust, I understand the feed the beast model. At least to a modest extent. Hold on. We screwed it up. That's okay. We've been doing pretty well with Death's List. Not a great payout, but still. You know, I'm past the point in my life where I feel like we need to take Dunce Cap. Previously, I've kind of been of the opinion that Dunce Cap is not that bad, but I don't know. I'm done playing the young man's game. You know, I don't feel like we need to impress you by coming at you right out of the gate with you know, check out how zany I am. We've lived that life for a long time. Now I'm living a smart way. Okay, found pills. Puberty's fine. Explosive diarrhea is not. Oh, or is it? An explosive, or sorry, a speed down, obviously we're just not going to take because we'd have to be an idiot to do so. Yeah, you know, positives and negatives. I point this out all the time. And I'm not the only voice on YouTube doing this. I'm not the only voice on Twitch doing this, Twitter, etc., etc. But I really do think we're going through a couple of pretty great years for games, and I want you to be abreast of the situation, if that makes sense. Because if you know, people have caught on to this to a large extent, but there's a lot of negativity in the platforms that I work in. There's a lot of positivity too, but for a long time, negativity was kind of like the name of the game. It was the language that people kind of utilized, you know? And I think it created this perception that the games industry is like constantly on fire from a consumer standpoint. Everything was pro-consumer, pro-consumer, pro-consumer. Being pro-consumer is great, don't get me wrong. but simultaneously. Like, you know, they don't even realize that, you know, we're going through kind of a golden age where developers are breaking their backs in a lot of circumstances to, you know, make sure the games are as good as they could conceivably be. And I'm not talking about EA necessarily. It's always the example people go to is, what about Anthem? Okay, well, I wasn't speaking specifically about Anthem, in case that's not readily apparent. Maybe we could have gone Book of Belial, and that would have given us Bookworm, but luckiest deaths list of my life. Oh, we killed a spider, though. You know, I don't want you to necessarily, like, sometimes people do this as well. Like, I saw it with Game of Thrones Season 8. People were pretty negative on it, myself included. And then all of a sudden the hand-wringing comes out on Twitter. Hey, man, you can be mad at Game of Thrones, but just remember, a lot of people worked really, really hard to bring... Yeah, okay, everybody knows that. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't compliment the key grip, the gaffer on Game of Thrones. I'm just saying, you know, it does run the risk of being like, well, now you can't criticize anything. Because people... Sometimes... Don't shoot the messenger. People work really hard on something. That sucks. And it's not the Game of Thrones, you know, lighting director that's to blame. But still, it doesn't, you know, if I'm like, I don't like Season 8. Well, 15,000 people worked really hard to bring it to you. Okay, well, you know, that's why I pay HBO $18 a month. Canadian. When I said Canadian, like that makes it more. Obviously makes it less. By the way, should have used 2 of diamonds. My mistake. But I'm not saying we should not criticize things. All I'm saying is, you know, I think between the Epic Games Store and, you know, whatever crisis du jour exists in the games industry, sometimes people, you know, they don't realize it's been a pretty consumer-rich couple of years. My personal opinion, at least. Like, the amount of free updates you get for stuff in this day and age is crazy. And they do it selfishly, because you have to do it to compete and continue to, you know, generate revenue in the modern world, but still. Mostly I'm just talking about stuff I don't understand. I'll own up to it. I went down the road and now I don't know what to do. I'm gonna get dicey here. Let's do it. I don't know. I'm not even gonna go down this road past what I'm about to say, but I just get sick of people on YouTube that are like always angry about everything, and then you realize like some people are just like they're just angry people, and then some people are like just bad actors who are like anger clicks are what drives it's what pays the bills basically. I understand that, and I don't really, you know, hate anybody for playing the game, but it's annoying for me. Why can't everybody just be as correct as I am in every circumstance ever? Hold on. Okay, Balls of Steel, fantastic. We've changed our spacebar item a lot recently, but, you know, it's been for good reason. We've been getting better stuff. Still very much interested in getting a speed upgrade. HP's doing okay. Death's List, it's been okay. I mean, I know I'm saying the same words over and over here, but that's because it's a mixed bag. Positives and negatives. Death's List has not been incredible, but it's been fine. And, you know, as of right now, sure, we could have taken 2 of diamonds. Or, sorry, 2 of clubs instead of the moon. But, you know, both of those have a fairly similar use case for us here, I think. Dad's Key. Now, this episode's going to get me in trouble. Because I'm skipping a lot of items that are... You have a preconceived notion that they're Zane rich. But... Dad's Key just isn't nearly as good as Blank Card. I promise I'll try to make it up to you with banter. Because, I mean, what does Dad's Key really do for us in those? I mean, it does give us secret room access, but Blank Card, we didn't really take it to go to the secret room. Yo, that's a huge get. Anyway, I've been talking about this stuff more often because I think I realized on Twitter one day that, like, websites, it used to be, clickbait has gotten more sophisticated. It used to be specifically, you won't guess what this person you haven't seen for 10 years looks like now. That exploits a specific part of the human brain that's like, whoa, it must be different. Nah, usually they're just like 10 years older. Sometimes they put on 20 pounds. Mostly they just look like an older version of their younger selves, which is, you know, all any of us could hope for. But then people started to wise up to that. They're like, I'm not falling for that garbage anymore. So now websites that want to exist, you know, or blogs at least that want to exist, have to find a way to get people to click on things. Best way to do it? Good writing. Don't make me laugh. People don't read anymore. If they want to read, they read books. You go online to dunk on a headline. That's why you get blogs that write articles like, puppies are ugly. And then you see the headline retweeted into your feed. You go, what are you talking about? Puppies are ugly. You quote retweet it. Look at this joker. He thinks puppies are ugly. You share it to your thousands of followers. You just told your friends. I'm telling you, dude, the hate clicks, they're intoxicating. And I think we're not even close to the mature phase of hate clickbait. I think hate clickbait over the course of the next, like, you know, 3 or 4 years is going to become a very dominant trend in online media. Get ready for it. It's already almost there. You can see the channels on YouTube that have already figured this out. You know, every day they're like, we report on the news, but it's not actually the news. It's just, what can we get mad about today? And if that's, dude, don't get me wrong, being mad for a good reason is just about the sweetest feeling you could ever ask for. But it's also sometimes a little dishonest. Informs the way we interact with one another. I just bought a bomb! How dare you? Anyway, I didn't mean to start this video by being negative. It's not really what I meant. You just know that my favorite thing to do is to dunk on other YouTubers and content creators without them being privy to what I'm saying. It's my own bad habit, and I own it. All I want to say is that, you know, you'll know now that if I'm mad about something, why not? It's for not a good reason, but I'm genuinely upset, like that dude who pretended to have a gluten intolerance, but maybe actually did totally have a gluten intolerance that I talked about in the last episode. Anyway. My point stands, sort of. Gulp? Come on, make the sound. Anyway. You know, it's been back from Japan. Today's Monday. We came back on Friday. KB and Conception just paid out for us as well, which is really nice. Little brim, pretty solid get. Can't complain. Speed upgrade to a huge degree. Happy man. Anyway. Still working the jet lag through. Slept like absolute trash last night. It is what it is. I had one of those sleeps that you don't just find yourself being like, I'm tired. You actually find yourself getting angry about, like, human physiology. You guys ever experienced this phenomenon for yourself? And you might be like, yeah, now what are you talking about? Well, it's the kind of sleep where you go to bed at 12, you don't fall asleep till 5. You find yourself saying things in your brain like, human beings are so stupid, dude. Why don't we just have a switch you can flip on your abdomen that puts you into sleep mode or something like that, and then after 8 hours, it switches back. I found myself thinking that a couple times last night. I'm not gonna, I mean, it's, again, I mentioned it at the start of the episode. Being tired, it sucks. You know, it's worse than having gotten a great night's sleep the night before, but it's not like it's not completely debilitating. You know, it's just a light misery, you know? You're like a 1 out of 10 nauseous, and you're like, why am I nauseous? Oh, that's right. You got like sometimes you got a little bit of a headache, and you're like, why is my nose running? But not like a sick run, just like a little bit of running. And you're like, oh, that's right, I didn't sleep last night. Sleep is incredible, man. I don't mean like it's incredibly enjoyable, like it is. But it's like, the effect that it has on your body when you don't sleep right is amazing. Might as well just, I mean, I don't know. We don't need the money after this, so I think we made the right call here. Don't really need that either. I'm not worried about boss rush, although it would be nice to teleport out. We'll see if we can make it. Okay. If we got anything of value out of a successful roll with the swallowed penny, I might be interested there, but we don't, so I won't. It would be pretty sweet in order to just be able to make yourself sleep. I mean, I'm very jealous. Kate she's an unbelievable sleeper. One of the best sleepers I think I've known in my entire life. And I'm jealous. I think it's a genuine skill. I'm not going to say it's lucky. I think it's... Because I don't think it's actually, like... I do think there are people who are better sleepers than others. I don't know if it comes naturally, though. You know? Because I can pinpoint the patterns that lead to me having a bad night's sleep. I get out of the routine of going to bed at, like, a specific time. And then, you know, when I go to bed, there's nothing worse than going to bed and being like, I have to fall asleep quickly. Because that's the fastest recipe. I'm just getting out of here. Maybe we got a chance. It's the fastest recipe for a terrible night's sleep. You know, as soon as you start clock management, you know, you're done. You're just at the whims of whatever you got. So I try to, like, whatever you can muster, I should say. So I try to, like, you know, I recognize those patterns in myself, and I'm like, hey, I'm getting angry that I'm not falling asleep. You know, why don't we just take 10 minutes, watch something, feel better. And I do find it helps, but I don't think it's like some people are naturally... Well, maybe I'm not a neurologist, so... I don't necessarily think it's that some people are naturally good at it and some people aren't. I think that, you know, honestly, there are people who can just be better sleepers, like having learned the skill. Or maybe, you know, having learned to manage whatever kind of, like, anxiety they have related to it. But this is I guess it's a different case, because it's not really like... It's not like I was lying awake being like, you know, oh, I should buy a boat. I was lying awake like... My brain thinks it's the afternoon. Dude, I say this every time I come back from Japan, okay? Every time I come back from anywhere. I am not one of those travelers or overseas visitors who goes to a country and is immediately like, this is the best country on earth. Why don't they do things like this where I live? You know, in Japan, they don't talk on the trains. Wouldn't that be nice if they had that here? Okay, like, the reason I don't do that is because I worked with people in Korea that did that, and I noticed how annoying it was. You know, they moved to Korea for like a week, and they're like, wow, it's amazing how in every single way this is better than my home country. And I'm like, is it? Or is it just that you are not actually integrated into the society and are living like a pretty privileged existence here, and as a result are, you know, you don't have to worry at all about the ills that befall other people. You know what I mean? It's like you're studying abroad, or, you know, working abroad in a pretty simple role. You're not really going through the same stresses that, like, somebody who's making a life in a society is going through. You got unique stresses, some of which may be greater in magnitude, but I'm just saying you don't necessarily get an accurate portrayal of every, you know, all facets of life. You know, if people they move from Japan to Canada, and they're like, wow, Canada's like, it's amazing here. I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm stressed out now and then. You know, we got problems. Don't romanticize my country. But if somebody came here and they're like, it sucks, I would be like, you know what? Go home, brother. We don't need you. It's a weird kind of dichotomy. But anyway, I pride myself to some extent on calling it like I see it, okay? And obviously, why am I not using algaes here? But we'll just pop it now, I guess. As with, I'm sure, you know, any country on Earth, as compared to the country I live in, there's positives and negatives. One thing I would love my country, North America in general, I guess, to take from Japan is the amount of convenience in society. It's like people talk about it as if it's like a novelty. Like, oh, you know, in Japan, there's like a lot of vending machines. There's a vending machine on every street corner. And they're like, wow, isn't that weird? It's not weird. It's the way things should be. You know, it's just, you're walking around on a hot summer day. You're never more than like 10 meters from being able to pop $1 into a vending machine. You get a nice cold tea, a juice, cold coffee, water, you know, their equivalent of, you know, Gatorade, basically. It's awesome. Now, I'm not saying it's hard to procure a cold drink in North America, but, you know, there's probably a lot of people have to drive to a gas station or something like that, or they got to go to the grocery store, of course, and pick up a bunch of cold drinks and ration them out from their fridge. I'm not saying it's impossible to make this happen in North America. I'm just saying, wouldn't you rather have the opportunity to, you know, buy a bottle of green tea, or anything for that matter, exactly at your leisure for not a high markup at all? I would. Also, dude, the vending machine restaurants, look, sometimes you want a higher level of service, I'm sure. But for someone that, when I go to restaurants here, the most annoying part for me is human interaction. And I don't mean that in a misanthropic sense. I just think there's a lot of what 95% of the time ends up being wasted time. Hey, how are you guys doing today? Can I get you something started right away? They come over, they say that. I've already got my whole order out. Why do I have to... First I gotta make a drink order, and then they come back and they go, hey, can I get some appetizers started for you? And then we do the song and dance. Actually, I think we're ready to order everything. Oh, cool, let me just go get my pad. I'll be right back. You get the idea, you know? And then, hey, how are those first few bites tasting? And you're like, my mouth is full. I can't answer the question. I go, oh, it's so good. You know, you're like debasing yourself in the moment just to answer the question. Not like I would ever say it's not good to begin with, but I'm sure, you know, it's a good opportunity for some people. And then, you know, after you finish the food, they come around, they take the plate. They're like, oh, can I interest you in a dessert menu? You're like, no, I don't know. Maybe we'll take a look, but I'm pretty full. Can you just bring the bill? Like, I'm just getting this an inefficient transaction, which is fine. You're having a nice day, you know, with good company. But simultaneously, you go to like a Japanese diner, chain restaurant, basically. You walk in the front, there's a machine. On the machine, you pick what you want, you put in your money, it gives you a ticket. You sit down at a table of your choice, you hand the ticket to somebody. Less than 5 minutes later, they come back with your prepared food. You've already paid. All you gotta do is eat and leave. And when you leave, it's not, you're not like, eh. You know, you're like, thank you so much for the food. It's a gracious experience, to be honest. In spite of the fact that you might think that this is like, oh, humans don't talk to one another there. I honestly just think it's like a better system. Like, we kind of got a similar thing. Have you guys heard of glance pay? I don't know if it's just Canadian. And you never know with these startups, you know, if they're going to make it or if it's just going to peter out. But it's like, if a restaurant is integrated into this app called Glance Pay, you no longer have to wait for your bill. When you're ready, you just pay on the app. I'm sure that Glance Pay probably takes a cut that is way too large to make sense, but, you know, it's the restaurant's hopefully eating that to provide a higher level of service. And again, there's always, I feel like there's a lot of bad faith arguments that you can make against that. Oh, I'm so important, I can't wait 5 minutes for my bill to come. I gotta get home and record Isaac episodes. Look, just because that's funny doesn't mean it's right. Oh, what if, hey, your food's ready. No, you can't have it for 5 more minutes. Oh, but the food is right there. Now, you just, oh, what, you got something to do? You're too busy? You're so important? And then this is where you say, now that's a logical extreme. Is it, though? Or have we just not opened our mind to the idea that the service could just be faster? You know, it could be more convenient. I'm telling you. It's a beautiful thing, that level of convenience. You can be in and out of a restaurant in like under 10 minutes having eaten your food. And the food is good. It's that you're not going in there and getting, you know, a plate full of garbage. I'll be honest, the worst service I had in Japan, we went to a Loteria, which is basically like a McDonald's. Took us forever to get, to order. Took us forever to get served. You go to like a Japanese, you know, Basically, it's not a stir fry, but like a gyudon or a... Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Basically like a rice bowl sort of location. Service instantaneous food, pretty decent. Now, lest you think I've become completely enamored with Japan, let me run something by you. Tokyo is a metropolitan area, 40 million people. A lot of people cycle. That's admirable. You ever hear about bike lanes? And I'm not trying to make this a political thing. I know in Vancouver we love our bike lanes. But it takes a special kind of jerk to go to a country for a week and be like, hey, here's how you should run things. But simultaneously, been to a few major metropolitan areas in my day. Tokyo maybe has the most per capita cyclists I've ever seen. Tons of cyclists at all times. Very few people actually biking on the road. All people biking on the sidewalk. Now, I'm not getting clipped at all times by cyclists, but I'm constantly dodging them. They're constantly dodging me. They're getting stuck behind people that are walking more slowly than they'd like. They're getting stuck behind cyclists coming in the other direction. I understand that, you know, if you were planning the city from here, you would probably be like, you know what? We'll put some bike lanes in. But, you know, is the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is, I mean, the second best time would be like 19 years, 364 days ago. But like for the purposes of this, the second best time is today. It actually, I would even say the best time is today, because you couldn't have done it 20 years ago, or it would have been done by now. We wouldn't have been talking about it. So the best time to do something is right now. Now, maybe if you live in Tokyo, you're like, it's not a problem. You're making up a problem where it doesn't exist. You know, I think it's one of those things where, like, you just don't notice. Because I live in a city, way less population density, no doubt about it. But we have bike lanes. It does make it harder to be a driver, because you're I mean, when you're checking your blind spot in your mirror, you constantly also got to be looking, make sure there's no cyclist coming, you know, down your right side when you're turning right. But as a pedestrian, it's way better. It's not that people don't ride on the sidewalk. It's just that it happens pretty rarely. So I'm just saying, I'm taking the good with the bad. I honestly think a restaurant chain could work in North America that uses the vending machine. I mean, if anything, the McDonald's kiosk is essentially the same situation as the as the Japanese vending machine. It's just like 20 years behind the times. So if you're gonna tell me that idea doesn't work in North America, I don't know. One of the largest chains of so-called restaurants. I don't mean to insult McDonald's, okay? But one of the largest chains of so-called restaurants, it seems to disagree with you. Now, I do recognize that there's labor concerns as well. You can't bring up anything without also having, you know, some kind of... You got to consider the ill effects when you don't have somebody... But it's weird, you know, when you don't have somebody taking your order, maybe somebody has lost their job. What's funny, though, is Japan is like... From the perspective of an outsider, they also have a lot of people doing jobs that basically in North America machines would already be doing. Like dudes that just stand on the side of the road with like those hand counters that you click and just counting cars as they go by. Literally like hundreds or thousands of cars. And you're like, that can't possibly be an accurate count. But you know what? If it keeps the population employed, it gives them a purpose, you know, it gives them a routine that they could anchor their lives around, and, you know, maybe it's not always about, you know, progress, and, you know, well, why are you paying this guy to do it when a machine could do it for 1/8 the price? Well, maybe it's because, you know, you're keeping the society running in a copacetic fashion. By letting this senior citizen have a job that, you know, he can take some pride in and also provides him with some stability. So there's good and bad. It wasn't really irritating, like, the bikes to that extent. I basically just felt like my dad. Every time I meet someone in Japan. You know, I love Tokyo, but man, I really wish somebody would mention the existence of bike lanes to them. And then I'd get a little polite laughter. And they'd be like, you know, the city's existed for like 4,000 years, so, you know, maybe they got things figured out in such a way that works for them. And I'm like, but the bike lanes, though. Look, I don't think every city needs bike lanes. If you live in, like, you know, Peoria, you know, you got like 1% of the population cycles, okay. You probably just, they can ride on the sidewalk, they can ride on the street. We're talking about a metropolitan area of 40 million people, all of whom seem to own bicycles. Anyway, also no bike clocks, which, if anything, it's the same reason I think that, like, you know, population density is one reason why maybe the vending machine situation doesn't work in North America. I will accept as well, and I hate to say it, because I'm insulting my own people, but I think one of the reasons the vending machine culture can't really take off to a great extent in North America is because the machines would just be destroyed. We as a society, we love to break stuff. I don't know what the... Maybe it exists in Japan as well, but maybe to a lesser extent. But, you know, there's been times, you know, I've just been walking around Vancouver, and I just walk by a trash can, and it's, like, on fire. I'm not saying it happens every day. I don't want to give you an improper perspective on my city. I love my city, but sometimes you'll just walk by a trash can that's got smoke coming out of it and police at it. Yeah, okay. Now, it's not happened to me in Japan. I've never walked by a vending machine that's had, like, the glass of the front smashed in. Maybe it's because they recognize they love the vending machine, and as a result, why would you destroy something you love? Anyway. There is one other thing, and I don't even know if I want to bring it up this close to the end of the video, but Japanese clerks are so polite. And as a Canadian, you might think that I think that's awesome. It is, or let me rephrase, it isn't not awesome. But I think, you know, and I'll accept this is not an objective truth. This is, you know, I've grown up mostly in Canada. I've spent the last decade or so in a relatively large city. People here have a little bit more of an attitude where they're like, chop chop, get things done, even though we got a little West Coast laid backness as well. I was dying sometimes when I, like, go to the convenience store. I'd hand them, like, you know, a can of coffee. And then, you know, I don't speak Japanese, but Kate basically has done the post-mortem translation for me, and she'll be like, you hand them the coffee, and they go, did you find everything you need? And you go, yes. And then they go, so you'll have this cold coffee, and they scan it, and then you're like, yeah. And then they're like, okay, that'll be $1.10. And then you put, you know, $2 into the tray, and they go, it's $1.10. You're paying with $2. Is this correct? And you go, yes. And then they manually count the 90 cents of change in front of you, and they go, is this correct? And you go, yeah. And then they hand you the change, and then they hand you the bag, and they say, thank you for coming. Now, it sounds minor, but I'm used to going to convenience stores where you put the thing on the counter, and they go, and they scan it, and then they don't even say anything. You just look at the cash register, and then you go, you toss like $5 on the counter, and they go, and they hand you your change. I'm used to that. So it got a little much for me from time to time, but I'm not saying it's bad. Anyway, hey, for now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you have, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!